it's a club-wide problem or fan problem. We're always just looking for the next big thing all the time. Whereas sometimes we just got to look at what we have and think, we got some real talent here.
Yeah, very true. All right. 1 second. Let's get into this Tottenham update then. And we're going to start off with a lot of what Matt Law was saying just now on Last Word on Spurs. And first of all, he was talking about the cash situation at Spurs. And he says, in terms of actual cash Spurs have to spend, it's actually got dangerously low. There is an expectance that Levy will have to invest some money. Therefore, ENIC have taken a little bit of control back with the changes that have been made at the top of the football club. And in return, there is an expectancy that they're going to be putting some money into the club.
Well, they better. If we, you know what I mean? If we need to spend and the cash is getting low, well,
not low,
Levy's saying
dangerously low.
Levy said he wants to win
the cash in the bank. Doesn't mean we're poor.
Levy said he wants to win the Premier League and the Champions League. He says he's so desperate to win. Well, prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. Don't I'm sure you got enough money, ENIC, to put in and invest and help Tottenham. Get certain targets if they need. We know we've got an unbelievable threshold when it comes to PSR. That isn't the problem. I understand the problem is how much actual money do we have right now to use, and because of debts and paying off the stadium, all that kind of stuff, maybe it's lower than they would like, or we got all these payments for players to pay off as well, that signings we've made, all these different things. But that's where the owners come in, and that's where we need them. So if we're going to progress as a football club and we've got certain targets and signings that we want, put the money in and allow us to progress instead of, being so strict about never investing, only looking to invest what the club can make and the club can make a total, and expecting that to be a solution in the short term to not hold us back and see us fall behind. You've seen Liverpool and City splash big money on big signings, and right now we need to close the gap, and we're not going to close the gap by standing still.
This is never an issue. This is only ever an issue when Spurs need investment in the squad. It's never an issue when they want to build a hotel. It's never an issue when they want to build apartment blocks, getting ready for Euro 2028, so they can have the influx of cash when they're because they're one of the chosen stadiums to host, to be part of the host of the tournament. But when it comes to players, when it comes to rebuilding the squad, and when it comes to making that extra step to put those really good players into the squad, it's always an issue. Why is it an issue with all these other situations?
Because those things are guaranteed to make the money.
It's ridiculous, man.
They've seen as a more prudent investment. If you sign a player for 50 million or whatever, they could break their leg on the day you sign them, and all of a sudden that investment goes down the toilet in their eyes. Whereas that those buildings and the hotels guaranteed to make money for them, so they're willing to put the money down.
It's just like so frustrating. You're just supporting a football club. You're not supporting a business portfolio. We're not supporting a bloody property company. This is a football club, and football is just not at the forefront of any of their thinking. All it is making money, making money, making money. Highest paid directors in the Premier League, and we're sitting here being told cash is dangerously low, and it's always like every summer, oh, are we going to have money to spend this summer? Are we going to have money to spend? Well, the point was building this whole stadium. Every penny goes back into the club, does it? It seems like every penny goes back to lining your pockets by making these big hotel and property moves. That's what it seems like.
Where's the Post Malone money? Where's the Beyonce money? Where's 50 Cent? Where is all of it? Chris Brown
last weekend.
Chris Brown. They're all performing. Where's all the money going? When cash is dangerously low. We're having 30 events, non-footballing events at the stadium every year. They're raking it in with the F1 experience, with all these different things. Where is it all? You're telling me none of it makes any money?
And on top of that, such big wages in the past couple of years have gone out of this football club. Look at Harry Kane, look at Højbjerg, Perisic, This summer, Fraser Forster, Sonny could be leaving. Romero could potentially be leaving. There's such big wages. Timo Werner has just left. You know what I mean? Like, such big wages have gone out the door, and I don't know what to say anymore. How many times can we sit here just talking about the same thing over and over again? And the one person's that wages that never goes down is Daniel Levy.
Yeah,
His goes up every year.
he gets a nice dividend, nice bonus every season. I'm sure we'll get another one. Whenever it comes to competing on the pitch, always money is always an option, always a worry. When it comes to all these different things, spare no expense with the stadium, with the events, with the bill, with the hotel, spare no expense, top of the range, best in class. When it comes to the football, it's always an afterthought.
When it comes to the football, we're sitting here in 2025 talking about bringing Kyle Walker-Peters back.
Exactly, that's what it's like.
All right, let's move on and talk about actual football and actual players. Starting off with Sonny, as Matt Law says that Son left people within the club with the impression that he might have played his last game for the club, and that was after the last day against Brighton with the goodbyes and the style of the goodbyes that he was saying. And he's also said that on the show that there's been a willingness to move to Saudi once his Spurs career is over. And he said he'd rate the chances of Son leaving Spurs now at over 50%.
Yeah, it's the feeling I get. It's just the feeling I get by how he's speaking, how he was talking about his future. It's not something that I like or want to say. It's just, I have to be honest about the feeling I get. I don't want to sell him. I never want to see Sonny leave, and it's going to be a weird day to see a Sonny-less Tottenham. And I'd like to see him stick around for as long as possible. And I do believe under Frank he could be a lot better, and he could get the best out of him again. But I just get the feeling he might want something new. I just get the feeling he might feel like his time at Tottenham's done. 10 years at the club, lending it, last ever game, lifting that trophy. What a way to go. Maybe he's just feeling, is it time for a new chapter in his career? And that's just the gut feeling I get. And by him saying, I don't know what next season, holds and that kind of stuff, when he's the club captain, and you would think, even though he's got a year left of his contract, he will be saying he's looking forward to the new season and looking forward to working under Frank. He's not saying that. He's saying, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens, kind of thing. I'm like, okay, that kind of sounds like you're looking to leave, to be honest. And it all depends, obviously, a lot depends on football. Again, as I've always said, a lot of moving parts. So a lot depends on, is there a club coming in for a good offer? Is it a club he wants to go to? All these different things. But I think if everything aligns, I think there's a good chance we might have seen the last of Sonny, unfortunately. But look, we are going to have that pre-season tour with him, whatever happens. So we'll get to see him again in a Tottenham shirt. But whether I think it's pretty likely we'll see him as well in the Super Cup, I would say. But after that, that might be it for him.
Yeah, it's going to be a very sad day, and I think I'll be more gutted when Sonny leaves than when Harry Kane leaves. And I think probably as the last player, or the one player that sticks in my mind that I was just totally distraught when he left was David Ginola, when George Graham pushed him out the club. Showing my age a bit there, maybe, but yeah, I think it'll be a bit similar with Sonny. He's not being pushed out the club. Quite contrary, I think that Spurs have offered him the contract and want him to stay, but he's the one that didn't want to sign it. Tom Allnut was on here a few days ago, and he said if Spurs had their way, Sonny would retire here and end his career here. So it's a shame. It's a shame, but from his point of view, yeah, I can see why. I can see why he wants to leave. Like, chasing that trophy for so long. Once the trophy's done, so much change happening at the club. And maybe he has more things he wants to do outside of Tottenham before he ends his career. So, look, it'll be a sad day, but I won't hold anything against him for wanting to leave.
I do wonder because obviously the pre-season tour is very close to the game in Udine in Super Cup. So I do assume if he's going to be here for the pre-season tour, unless a deal gets done extremely quickly and it's all ready to go, I think there's a good chance he'll be here for the Super Cup. And I do wonder how that would influence his thinking if he is playing in that game and either we win or we lose. Probably if we lose that game, Like maybe it doesn't change anything, but I feel like he plays and he scores the winner, gets another trophy. Is he thinking? Will he think, oh, you know what, one more year, or would he be like, you know what, and that's another trophy, that's another last game, time to really end on a high. I do wonder whether that will influence his thinking or not.
You know, if that does happen, right? And if that does happen and he scores the winner in the Super Cup, I want to see a Wolf of Wall Street style press conference after that. With Sonny coming into the press, going, I'm not fucking leaving.
That'll be epic. That'll be unbelievable. We can all dream of scenarios like that. Let's hope. I think. Look, obviously, right now everything's still obviously fresh. We're not even. Well, we're a month after the Europa League when he hasn't got back to pre-season even. I don't even know if he's had a conversation with Frank. So his mindset now might be different to his mindset, in a few weeks. Who knows? But right, I can understand right now. He's on holiday or whatever. He's just been away in Korea. He's back home. 10 years with Tottenham. He's finally won that trophy. He's taken the trophy. He's parading around Korea. And, all this talk of change, and new managers come in, Andrew's been sacked. There's all this change going on. Maybe he feels like he's not part of it. Maybe he just feels like, with all the change, he's part of that change and it's time for him to leave. But maybe Frank can talk him out of that way of thinking. Maybe Frank can say, look, I know you're thinking like that, but I think you're a serious part of this team. I think I really want you to, this is how I want to use you. I think you'll be scoring 20 Premier League goals and everything. You know what? Well, maybe I'll give it another year. Maybe he'll change his mind. But I think right now, I can understand that's kind of how he feels.
The biggest shame about it all, about him leaving this summer, is I just think he would do so well under Frank. I just think Frank would get the absolute best out of him and used him horribly wrong, in my opinion. Got him running way too much, overplayed, overworked. Yeah, some of it was forced because of the injuries, but just the way that he was managing within games, I thought it's no way to manage a 31-year-old. And look, he got great out of him in terms of goal contributions, top goal contributor in the squad. But I think if you use Sonny in the right way now, you can get so much more out of him, in my opinion. And I think Frank would do that.
Yeah, and we know that when he's on form, he's our best attacker. He's our best forward player when he's on form. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen that kind of form at his very best. But we saw bits of it in Andrew's first season. But I think last season, once he exclusively moved to the left, we just didn't see it enough. But it's still there. We know it's still there.
But we saw it in snippets last year.
Yeah. I don't believe this, the narrative he's finished or anything like that. I think he's got so much to offer. I think he can easily go to a really good European club and smash it out somewhere. I don't think he goes and struggles. I think he's still really, really good. I don't think he needs to go to Saudi. I think he's still capable of playing at the top level, 100%. But it might just be more his. I just get the feeling it's more how he's feeling rather than anything about us wanting to get rid of him because he's not going to fit what Frank's going to do or anything like that. I still think we think he's amazing and everything like that. It's just, is it a case of his chapter of his career is over? He might feel that way.
All right, let's move on. And there's been a link for a new player that we haven't spoken about on a Tottenham update from Graham Bailey. And he says Tottenham and Leeds are two of the several English clubs interested in signing Lucas Ulrich from Borussia Mönchengladbach this summer. After an excellent breakthrough season in the Bundesliga, Ulrich is currently at the under-21 championships with Germany. With just 2 years left on his current contract, Gladbach have begun talks over a new longer-term deal because they are aware there is interest emerging from England. So he's a left-back, 8 million market value, and 21 years of age. Like I said, under-21 international at Gladbach.
No, we're going to sound like a broken record, but it's about the numbers here, squad numbers. How are you going to fit signing another left back into the Champions League squad? Don't disagree with anyone saying, well, we need one. I think we do need a left back, don't get me wrong. But how are we going to sign one and then fit the other players that we need into this squad? It's just not possible. It's not possible. Which is why the way we can probably end up buying a left back is signing Walker Peters or Sirkin, unless one of the fullbacks are probably going to leave, or unless someone really unexpected is going to leave. I don't see how we fit in a left back.
Or you buy him and loan him back.
Okay, you could do that, but then you're not using him. We could do that though. Yeah, we could do that. That doesn't obviously solve the left back issue if we for next season. But yeah, we could buy him and loan back.
Well,
But
yeah, I think Spence and Udogie's going to cover that position, aren't they?
yeah, or Walker Peters if he comes in. So yeah, I guess we could buy him and loan him back and have him for the following season. We've done that with a few players. So I wouldn't put it past Tottenham doing that kind of deal. But I wouldn't start getting excited about having him next season. I just can't see how he fits in.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Brian Mbeumo, as Darren Lewis was on the Last Word on Spurs yesterday. And Darren Lewis was the one that broke that Spurs had made a £70 million bid for Brian Mbeumo. I mean, I think it was clearly not true. And what he said on Last Word on Spurs is that Spurs have still not abandoned their pursuit of Brian Mbeumo. Levy is spearheading Spurs' pursuit of the B-star, with Tottenham chairman trying incredibly hard to reunite the forward with Thomas Frank at N17. It's still too close to pull. United have the edge, but Spurs are prepared to pay the money. The chairman wants to deliver a statement signing for the manager. While Lewis seems to believe that Tottenham still have a chance of landing the Brentford man, other sources firmly disagree with the Mirror journalist.
Well,
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think it just seems like old news because that was last night, and as of today, it seems everyone's reporting that the United are really close now to agreeing a deal with Brentford for Mbeumo. So it seems as though any chance that we did have is pretty much over.
Yeah, and I was going to report the Bleacher Report said that Tottenham have made their pitch to Mbeumo, but have finally started to accept that he is going to be joining Manchester United this summer. And Matt Law said on Last Word on Spurs today that United are extremely confident that they're going to get this one over the line, which is a shame, because we thought maybe potentially, well, I didn't really think so, but a few people thought that maybe the Frank pull could bring Mbeumo here, and maybe it got quiet for a reason, but it looks like they're going to get the deal over the line.
Well, all the reliable journalists at the moment are reporting that. Not all of them, but a lot of them are reporting it's going to be they're very close to agreeing a deal. So it looks as though that one's done. We have to move on. Once United agreed a deal with Brentford, it was only going to go one way. So we had to hope that United were poorer than they were letting on, and they weren't really ready to put the cash on the table, and maybe we could swoop in, but not going to happen.
His ex in the comments is, Sim, I'm going to Greece tomorrow to bring back Ange back for you, my G. You look sad.
Bro, I'll just watch his final speech. It's all flooding back, bro. It's all flooding back. It's man. I thought I was over it, and then I watched that speech. How could they sack the guy? How can they sack him? Look at that speech. It was rousing. Oh, got me all going again. Still a bit bitter about it, but look, we're moving on, Max. We're moving on. I know you were back on the Ange train. Come on, we all were.
Talking about Semeno, he says that no chance that Spurs pay the 60-70 million asking price for Semeno. Dean Hyson obviously gone. They're digging their heels in as well for Zabiani. PSG finding it hard to get Zabiani out of Bournemouth. So if PSG are finding it hard to get a player out of Bournemouth, Spurs have got absolutely no chance.
Yeah, look, we're not going to pay big. I think the only reason, in my mind, we would be very interested in Semeno is because we would think, because he's at Bournemouth, we could get him for a fairly decent fee. I don't think we would want to overpay for him. I think we like him, obviously, and we think he's a quality player. But I don't think he's on the level of an Mbeumo, Eze, or even Kudus. I think he's not as good as those players. So for me, unless he's going to be around 50 million or 50, I just can't see us paying much more than maybe 55 at a stretch. I don't see us going to 60 for him.
Now they'll hold to their guns as well. They will hold to their guns. Next up, we're going to talk about Kudus. Matt Law says that West Ham desperate to sell Kudus as they need to sell to buy. There's an acceptance that they won't get the release clause, but they will accept £65 million. However, at this stage, it's unclear whether Tottenham will pursue him. And if they are going to accept 65 million, why aren't Spurs trying to do that deal?
For Kudus?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we are. Who knows? I'd like to do that deal. I think he's a player who I think is one that, again, we're kind of missing that kind of profile in the squad. But it's about whether West Ham will deal with us. But look, apparently the sources are maybe they will. So if they will, maybe there's something to be done here.
Matt Law talking about Javi Simon says that Javi Simon wants to come to England this summer. Tottenham are one of the clubs who are interested in him. Simons would demand a big wage packet himself. However, the transfer fee will not be an issue for Spurs, and Spurs are definitely in the mix for him, he's saying.
That would be a dream. That would be a dream signing. Again,
Eze?
I think so. I think he's got such unbelievable ability. I love Javi Simons. I think he's just such a star in the making. His technical ability is incredible. Yeah, I think it'd be a dream signing. Can play across the front line, can play in the 10. I think he's been brilliant for Leipzig as well. But the transfer is not going to be an issue. I'm guessing he wants to come in and be Tottenham's highest paid player. I'm guessing that would be the issue. I don't know how much is he on at Leipzig, Javi Simons. Let's see.
I think it's a fair bit.
About 100 grand, it says.
So I mean, double that probably you want.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if someone's leaving and potentially some of our big earners, then maybe there's something we can do.
Why we can't pay these wages, man. There is no reason with the amount of wages that have gone out the books over the past couple of years. There is no reason why we can't make a marquee statement.
Then again, if we give Simons 200 grand a week, I guarantee you that Madison's knocking on the door saying, I want 200. You're going to have a lot of players probably knocking on the door. Van der Ven probably knocks on the door. Has he signed a new contract since coming?
Who matters?
No, Van der Ven. I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't think so. I think Van der Ven is on tiny wages, man.
I think he knocks on the door saying, I want to be. Anyway. Yeah, he'll knock on the door anyway. But so I understand the reluctance to do it, but you're going to have to do it at some point. And you're going to have to bite the bullet and start paying more wages.
Yeah. Last but not least, Eze. Matt Law says that City definitely hold an interest in Eze. However, the business they've done, their move for him might be connected to Jack Grealish leaving the club. He's been on their radar since last year. The release clause is complicated, but it relates to UEFA Champions League teams. It may be easier for a club in Champions League to trigger it. So he's saying there's definite interest from Man City, and it could be linked to the Jack Grealish leaving.
So interest for who?
Eze.
Wow, that'd be a blow. God. And it makes sense because they're very similar profiles. Obviously, Eze is kind of like a young Jack Grealish, a younger version. That's kind of what he's like. They play in a very similar way. I think Eze is a bit more of a goal threat, but I think they are very much like that. So it does make a lot of sense why, if Grealish is leaving, then they'll go hard for Eze. So Man City for him. Yeah, have to move on. We have to move on from that one. We'll have to wait and see. We have heard before that Man City won him. We heard last summer there's serious interest. We were just hoping because they've signed, Cherky. They've signed a few players this summer already. So I was hoping maybe they've moved on from him. But if they haven't, yeah, we're pretty cooked.
We're cooked, man. Maybe that's why they're considering keeping JB Donnelly around.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, God, man. The life of a bloody Spurs fan. Why can't it ever be easy?